Now we are going to talk about Russian formalism. We have already discussed new criticism in the previous class. Russian formalism was another formalist approach in Europe that was simultaneous with new criticism. At the same time that new critics were writing, the Russian formalists thrived in the continent, Europe, Russia and Czechoslovakia mainly. Russian formalism emerged around 1915 and flourished in the 1920s. The most important figure of Russian formalism was Roman Jakobson. The school called Russian formalism was also associated with the Opojaz, O-P-O-J-A-Z. Please don't go wrong with the spelling. Russian formalism was associated with the Opojaz. It is actually an acronym like UNICEF. But don't look for words beginning with O-P and O-J-A-Z because it is Russian. The English translation would be Society for the Study of Poetic Language. So the Opojaz was an association or society that flourished thrived in Russia. And there was also another society, the Moscow Linguistic Society. They were all linguists who talked about the literary use of language, how language gets transformed in literature. They were theorists, primarily linguists, who were associated with such kind of research. The leading pioneering figure of these groups was Roman Jakobson. And when the communist regime did not favorably, react to their work, they left Russia and they moved to Czechoslovakia, where they formed the Prague Linguistic Circle. Now, Roman Jakobson was, of course, born in Moscow, and he was a co-founder of the Moscow Linguistic Circle, which was founded in 1915. That is why we said it emerged around 1915. And Opojaz was co-founded by Jakobson, Viktor Shklovsky, and Boris Eichenbaum. Viktor Shklovsky, Boris Eichenbaum, and Roman Jakobson, all of them together founded the Opojaz in 1916. Jakobson later, while fleeing from Nazi occupation, he met Lévi-Strauss, and together they founded the Linguistic Circle of New York. Jakobson and Lévi-Strauss, Claude Lévi-Strauss, together founded the Linguistic Circle of New York. So as we have already seen, other major figures of Russian formalism were Viktor Shklovsky, that spelling is wrong, S-H-K-L-O-V-S-K-Y. Viktor Shklovsky and Boris Eichenbaum. They were the other major figures of the movement. And the most important idea put forward by Jakobson was that poetics is an integral part of linguistics. People who study linguistics should study poetics, or the poetic use of language. A major idea put across by Jakobson was that poetics is an integral part of linguistics. This led the formalists to discuss at length the features of poetic language. What is poetic language? How is it different from ordinary language? That is a very major preoccupation of the Russian formalists. Later on, Mikhail Bakhtin was also associated with Russian formalism, but he did not remain a major formalist. He went on to combine formalist approaches with a Marxist approach to literature. He became a class of his own. He did not stay on with the formalists. He went on to create a body of other theories that today stand on their own, not necessarily as part of formalism or structuralism, but on their own. We'll have a separate class on Bakhtin. Now, what is this Russian formalism? Formalism, as everybody knows, takes its name from form. When you write an essay, you don't have to write that, because it is the obvious. Formalism takes its name from form. You understand it, but leave it in your answer. So what is studied by the formalists is the form of the literary text rather than the content. It is not that the content is not important. The Russian formalists were humanists. Like all humanists, the formalists also held that form and content should be fused in literature. They did not consider form to be separate from content. That means a study of literary form would eventually lead to an understanding of the content of literature. Whereas the method of deconstructionists is quite the opposite. They think that there is no content. All that we have is the form. So the Russian formalists studied form of literature, not because content is not important for them, but because the form and content is fused in great literature. And form will bring the content. The form of Wasteland brings its content, doesn't it? The fragmentary uneasiness, the insecurity, the sense of loss and nostalgia that you get when you read Wasteland. You long to read daffodils when you read Wasteland. You long to read an ordinary, simple poem because Wasteland has thrown you off your bonkers. And that sense of loss, nostalgia, that uneasiness, that insecurity that the form of Wasteland gives you is its content. The Wasteland is about a world where everything is lost and fragmented. There are no meanings. All these are conveyed by the form of the text itself. So, formalists are concerned not with content directly but with form, because they are already past a world where the glory of the content is lost. They have already come up with an age where reality is lost, where nothing is there. Only a hollow shell of the world remains, of society remains, of religion remains. Religion and philosophy have failed in this world. In the context of all this, they don't believe in this reality or content anymore. They focus rather on the formal devices of the text. That is actually a Russian formalist word. The formal devices of the text means the technical aspects of the text. Terry Eagleton, incidentally, not that Terry Eagleton is the greatest man who talked about it, because his definition is very clear and concise, I took it. It means when you write in the answer, you don't have to quote Eagleton. You can just write sound, imagery, rhythm, syntax, meter, rhyme, narrative devices. These constitute the formal devices. Raman Selden also you need not quote. You can just say that idea without saying the name of Selden. He said that formalists set about producing a theory of literature that is concerned with the writer's technical prowess and craft skill. When I said Raman Selden there, I was only trying to be truthful. I was not pretending that these are my words. Otherwise you'll think, oh, how brilliant. I just truthfully said these are not my words. I got it from Raman Selden. But I discover many of you writing in your answer, Raman Selden, the great critic, said. I mean, he's great, but He is not necessarily the man who spoke about Russian formalism. It is incidentally the book that I read, that I happened to read.